So I want to transition to the MHRA guidance here. And at a high level, I'd like to hear both of to sort of get your knee-jerk reactions. What do you see as the primary strengths of the guidance, first and foremost? Like, why is it a pretty solid guidance for us to work from? And then also, were there any major surprises for you as you were reading through the guidance? So maybe we'll start with Ulrike, and then we can go to Tiffany.
Yeah, so I thought that this guidance was very well written, and also taking a lot of crystallize especially with mRNA immunotherapeutics, like the bioinformatics algorithms. Again, into, I think, a good shape and a good step-by-step approach that what you need to consider when embarking into this endeavor of a personalized or individualized immunotherapy. And so I think there is value in just having such a first guideline draft and really, sparking the discussion. I thought that it also, what I found interesting was that it was also having statements included that showed certain openness to discuss new concepts. That there were, for example, discussions about potential considerations on having additional subclassifications with ATMPs that I mentioned before, advanced therapies, be it for non-genome editing nucleic acid products or be it for synthetic products, which I find is, with the new developments and the new really great variety of products that are likely to come, is a discussion that needs to be had, because we need to be clear on what we mean when we talk about certain products, about the terminology, and then also making sure that they are regulated adequately.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a good timing for the guideline to come out, and it really contains very helpful points to take into considerations for sponsors.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually really love some of the openness to new concepts or ongoing developments and innovations in the space, as you'd mentioned, sort of the use of fully synthetic products, right? I thought that was a fascinating inclusion, really timely, given the amount of synthetic DNA, right, that companies are starting to launch out there into the world and the market. And some of the thoughts on terminology delivery is another really big piece, right? And so I think both EMA and MHRA both talked about the need to potentially update, right, as we move beyond LNPs and explore alternative methods of delivery. So I thought that was, I thought it was a really nice inclusion and kind of encouraging, given that we are still very, all things considered, scientifically nascent, right? Tiffany, I'd be curious to hear too your thoughts on what was the most surprising and what do you think is going to be the most challenging aspects here in this guidance for companies to be tackling?
Sure. I really like both of your points about this being a great framework, and that has the potential to be encouraging to come forward with good data, well-justified approaches. And I really appreciate that MHRA is, clearly defining how they're viewing these mRNA cancer immunotherapies right now. They acknowledge how other regions, other regulatory agencies are viewing them, and the similarities and differences. So in addition to this really nice framework for this product type, I really like that it provides an applied case for the use of bioinformatics or AI approaches in personalized medicine. And, some of these are potentially, the ultra personalized medicine of the sci-fi future that we've been wondering, when they would come to fruition.
Yeah.
And then really outlining what those regulatory expectations are, and that the agencies are open to hearing well-justified approaches that are supported with data. And then I think another really critical component is that this guidance is providing a clear example of a single product, a single licensing application, or MA in this case, where you have a variable active therapeutic agent, and it allows for the product to be patient-specific, but the final, sequence motif is in fact patient-specific. So that, I think, quells a lot of concerns in industry that such a product could even exist. So that, I think, is really exciting, and is definitely an area that's been, misunderstood, that agencies would even be open to this idea.
Is it drastically different from cell therapy? I mean, because cell therapy is autologous cell therapies kind of have that patient-specific piece to it. I mean, is this drastically different?
So
from a regulatory standpoint?
It is from a regulatory perspective. So for example, with a genetically modified T cell, you can't change that patient's starting material. There are going to be certain characteristics, and there will be, release criteria that are specific for those patient cells that ensure, the health of those cells, that they are in fact T cells. But really, you're looking at very specific factors in the genetic modification. For example, the CAR T, that specific design of that CAR T. You are looking for, what the frequency of that is, how many integration events you have. And so it really is different than having a unique mRNA sequence where it may perform very differently, in one patient versus another, because it's just not going to work in another patient, because it wouldn't align with their tumor sequence. So it is a very different approach potentially, but it's exciting to other areas potentially within gene therapy, where you have some of these unique genetic differences that need to be addressed.
Yeah, that N of 1 type therapy, right?
Sure.